the worst of the worst are the Colombian, the Mexican, the Venezuelan drug gangs bill. Where do we tie this together for what you just call everyday Americans? I don't think the third in the middle, third is always going to love Trump, a third's going to always hate Trump. The third in the middle, I don't think really cares that much, except to sort of say, makes sense that we're blowing up these drug boats.
Yeah, unless they're cocaine addicts, they don't care. But let's walk up the stairs. I do have 2 chapters in Confronting Evil on the cartels. And from what I understand, President Trump signed an executive order designating drug cartels as terrorists. And once that order was signed, that gives the U.S. military the legal premise to go in and destroy the cartels. So, legally, the military has the right to blow them out of the water. So what the Democrats are doing is what they always do, trying to contrive a situation that might be wrong, but it's pretty easy to resolve. You just have the Senate committee call Admiral Bradley in and say, Admiral, just explain what happened there. That's all. Take the politics out of it. I think the American people should know what happened, but, it's being used to destroy Trump. And that's going to get worse next year because that's the last shot at Trump 2026. The progressives and Democrats don't get him that year, they're never going to get him. So wait till you see what happens. Now, the very interesting part of this story for the Democratic Party is Barack Obama. So I wrote a book called Killing the Killers. And in that book, we chronicle almost on a daily basis how President Obama destroyed ISIS in Western Iraq. No prisoners, Leland.
Right.
If the special forces went into a camp, everyone died, including al-Baghdadi's 8-year-old son. Okay, the orders were destroy ISIS. Barack Obama gave the order. There wasn't any sorting out of people, wasn't any of that. The Democratic Party did not say one blanking word. Did they?
You know what? No. And look, there's, I think, a point here, right, which is what we said on this show for a couple of years, starting, I think, in 2022, maybe even 2021, of why don't we treat the cartels like terrorist organizations? Because they kill far more than terrorists ever killed Americans. I want to point out, though, something subtly shifting at the White House is that they are trying to take the focus off Pete Hegseth and on to this admiral who was the combatant commander giving the orders for that first strike. Take a listen.
Secretary Hegseth authorized Admiral Bradley to conduct these kinetic strikes. Admiral Bradley worked well within his authority and the law. Admiral Bradley worked well within his authority and the law. He has the authority to kill them, and that's what this administration is doing. Admiral Bradley worked well within his authority and the law, directing the engagement to ensure the boat was totally destroyed.
Whenever I hear the same line over and over again in Washington, I feel like they're setting up a fall guy.
I'm not sure about that. If you, again, we'll go back to Killing the Killers, I opened with the bin Laden raid. And Admiral McRaven was the commanding officer. And his orders were, everybody dies in the compound if they resist. And by resisting, you mean trying to run away or any of that. And everybody died.
Yeah, everybody, unless if you look at the SEALs the wrong way, you die, was my understanding, but yes.
Right. And we're talking women and children. Mm-hmm. So again, no outcry, none of that. But on the Hegseth front, Trump does not want, obviously, to let his Secretary of War hang out there from a tree. Remember, all of the reporting is anonymous reporting, all of it. And Hegseth denies giving the order to kill 2 guys hanging on the boat. That's on the record. Hegseth said, I didn't give the order. Okay. let's bring in the admiral in front of the Senate Committee on Military Affairs and ask him, isn't it the right way to conduct this government?
What was the order?
I think it is.
Hegseth's fighting back in his own way, and I think there's a reason for that, right? He's put up on X. The Defense Secretary of War included a mock cover of a children's book from Franklin and the Turtle book franchise. I'm not familiar with this best-selling book, Bill. I'm more familiar with yours. The edited cover includes a small print label at the top, a classic Franklin story, followed by the made-up title, Franklin Targets Narco Terrorists. What I see is different in Trump 2.0 than in Trump 1.0. Trump 1.0, they would have been arguing about the law here. They would have been in the weeds. And in Trump 2.0, Trump has changed that he kind of takes no quarter, and he does not demand that his cabinet secretaries play by the accepted Washington rules. They sort of enjoy stoking the fire of outrage that we will see, and we saw today on MSNBC, we'll see tomorrow in the New York Times.
I don't know if it's that contrived. Look, I had a meeting with Donald Trump about maybe 8 months after the 2020 election. And it was just me and him, Mar-a-Lago, nice dinner. And we were talking about the drug problem in the United States because in his first term, the drug problem really didn't, it was the same when he came into office and when he came out, all right? There wasn't any improvement. And the drug gangs are taking over the cities, and to this day, they plague the cities. And I did a ABC News special called Drugs, A Plague Upon the Land in the 1980s, where we predicted, and that was a big award-winning thing at ABC News, that this was going to get worse and worse, and the only solution to it was what they do in Singapore, what they do in China and other countries, is that you do not allow people who sell narcotics any quarter at all. I mean, last week they hung 2 guys in Singapore,
right?
2 heroin dealers. They don't have a drug problem there. Now, the president told me in that dinner he hesitated because of international law, because of this, because of relations. At that time, we're getting better with Colombia, which is the primary mover of cocaine. It goes into Venezuela and then out from Venezuela. That's how it's done now. But he goes, you know, I didn't want to rattle Mexico because we had a good relationship with them. And I said, Mr. President, look, it's a simple equation. If you want to stop or mitigate the horrendous narcotics problem in the United States, which is killing hundreds of thousands of people when you combine overdoses with murders on the street, with all kinds of stuff, you have to attack the cartels with military force. You have to.
Right. There's no other way to
say yes or no, but that was the conversation that we had for a good 90 minutes.
What was for dinner?
What was that?
What was for dinner? Yeah, what was the dinner? Steak?
Oh, I always get the fish. He always gets the meat.
Got it. Okay.
But I'll tell you what, it's good food.
It's good fish.
It's good.
All right. So I want to. I agree with you, right? The only way that you stop this is by attacking the cartels.
That's it. There's
again,
no other
it
way.
makes common sense. So why then are a number of senators, and this has now become a bipartisan issue, so concerned with these strikes? Here it is.
I do believe that the Secretary of Defense should be held accountable for giving those kind of orders.
If that occurred, that would be very serious, and I agree that would be an illegal act.
If there is anyone who needs to answer questions in public and under oath, it is Pete Hegseth.
It's hard to believe that 2 people on a raft trying to survive would pose an imminent threat.
How has this become such a thing? Why? Why?
That last soundbite is so absurd, so ridiculous. Number one, they're all virtue signaling, all of them. Oh, no, again, there's just 2 guys on a raft. They're just getting a tan. You know, okay. Number 2, this is the beginning of a hellacious campaign to undermine the President of the United States leading up to the midterm election. Every day, every way. You are going to, any mistake made is going to be amplified to a hysterical level. It is a well thought out campaign. And this is the beginning. Epstein was the beginning. Okay? And now this is number 2. But that's what you're going to see for the next 12 months up until the midterms.
You're going to see that. Again, when it comes to the third of America in the middle, every time there's one of these sort of outrages on process, Brago Garcia, I think, is a perfect example. It doesn't matter. The point that Trump feels vulnerability is on prices, is on the economy, is on how people feel financially, and that's not what's being discussed.
No, this is inside baseball for the cable news watchers, for the people who love the New York Times, the gotcha people, and that is less than 10% of the American population. But it's interesting because oil prices, gas pump prices are coming down. That story was not reported widely. The data came out last week.
Yeah, less than $2 in Colorado.
They ignored it. Right. There's less than $3 here on Long Island. Okay? The media just ignored it, and that's what they're going to do.
Bill, are you actually pumping your own gas these days? You're driving?
I do. I pump my own gas. It only took me 3 years to learn how to do that, but I can do it now. And but it was $2.95 in my town, and that's down substantially. So that's a pretty good story, right? Nope. No, you're not going to hear it. So I want to prepare everybody who watches NewsNation, because I think our audience is fair. At least they're looking.
Well, and savvy.
They're not crazed ideologues, and almost all the other cable networks are just crazed ideologues. That's all they want. And oh my God, your head will blow off. But here, you got people who go, okay, we don't want an out-of-control Secretary of War. I understand that. I wasn't a supporter of Hegseth. I didn't think that was a good nomination. I wanted somebody far more experienced. But this is not a hard story. You get the admiral who was in charge of the operation, and you ask
what were the orders?
What the deuce happened. That's all. And you have the Senate do it.
Well,
I want
I think they're going to
do it.
No, they're going to.
I hope so, because Americans should know what the policy is, exactly what the policy is. Americans should. They don't remember the executive orders. They don't remember the bin Laden raid. They don't remember the ISIS dismantlement.
Bin Laden and ISIS are very good analogies to this of what were the rules and have they changed. Bill, thank you as always. It's good to see you.
Thanks for having me, Leland.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.